Hey everyone. So in this small walkthrough, we're going to be taking a look at this array list concept. An array list is pretty much going to be a type of object in Java that helps account for the number one drawback that is a part of arrays inside of Java, which is the fact that once they are created, these lists cannot be resized. So an array, for instance, if we set it to be a type array, of any value and we set it to be 100 items, it's going to have 100 elements at the most. So if I want to go ahead and create if I want to add another element after I hit 100, I would need to create a new array that's larger, copy over everything, and then continue on with my work. Now, the issue with this is that the copying takes a bit of work and memory computation, and it takes some time to create a new array as well. This is where an array list is very useful because it is an array list. Array list is an array that can essentially be resized, and then you can put more elements in it. So what this means is that it can grow as large as you need. The logic behind this is that it actually does it internally. And what it does is that if it's too small or insufficiently utilized, it's going to create another internal array and put the elements over for us. And this process is going to be invisible to the programmer. And usually if it needs to create a new array in the back end, it is going to double the size of the array. I believe the exact for array list is like 1.5. You times the size of the array by 1.5, and there's actually quite a bit of logic from CSC281 that goes into why we actually do that as well. Again, don't worry too much about the processes behind this as much as the idea that an array list is going to be something that goes ahead and works for us. So what we could do here is I want to go ahead and showcase what some of the code looks like. And the way that we can do this is by taking a look at the enterstrings.java file. So if you take a look at the enterstrings.java file, you'll notice that I input the util, which is the scanner and array list class. And the way that we can declare an array list is by saying array list, and then in the brackets here, putting the type that we want. User list is equal to get strings. So now what we can do with this essentially is we can do this with any type of item. Array list maybe of an integer, numbers is equal to, and maybe we could say something like this. And what we can see here, oops, I'm just going to declare it like this for the time being. We can see here that we can fill this up with any items that we'd like. So what I could say here is I can use a few methods a part of an array list, like numbers dot, and we'll see here that I can use an add method that goes ahead and adds an item into my array, a clear that goes ahead, and clears out my array list. I can use a size, which is going to return the amount of items that are inside of my array list. And there's a few other ones as well, such as contains, which checks if there's something inside of my array list or not. So again, all these methods are going to be listed out for you inside of the doc here. We have an add, contains, get. What get does is it's going to return the element in the array list in position index. So what that means is if you say index 5, get me the item that's there. You can also check the index of a certain object of your array list, which returns the index of that item. And then last index of. All of these, again, are pretty interesting. And it's very useful that you import that java.util class. So again, a few ways that we can declare an array list again is we just say array list at the type and then the array list name. And then we can also go ahead and instantiate it by calling the constructor. There's a few ways you can call the constructor. This way, where we don't provide any types in the middle right there, or where we do provide a type in the middle as well. So again, what I want to showcase is that my numbers is just declared, and I'm going to say numbers.add. I'm just going to add a 5. And then I'm going to say numbers.add a 6. Numbers.add 7. And you'll see here that if I get this error up here that says the local variable numbers may have not been initialized, I can just initialize my variable, or I can also say numbers is equal to new array list, like so. And we'll see now that I'm able to instantiate like so. And I might also go ahead, and because I didn't provide the arguments for my parameter here, it's going to throw a little bit of an error. And so if I type these in here, it will stop throwing that error. And what I can type in here in this scenario is the integer. I could also just go ahead and type in the t, but if I do the t up here, I'm going to need to do the t over there as well. So I'm going to leave it at integer for the time being. And now you'll see here, I could go ahead and say system.out.println numbers.get, and I could say get index at tree. And we'll see here if I try to run my code. And let me actually comment out this top guy really quick, just so that he doesn't run right away. See here. We'll see that an array list, even though it's allowing me to put in a tree, it's going to throw an index out of bounds because we start at 0. So if I change that to 2, you'll see I'll get a 7. And then, of course, I can use a few different methods a part of this class. So what I'll actually do here is I'll leave all these up for us to fiddle around with in the Java list. And we can see here that I can also print out numbers.get index of. And what do I want to get the index of? I'm going to try to get the index of the number 7 inside of my array list that's here. And if I run this code, you'll notice that I get 2 because it's at the 0, 1, and 2 position. I could also say something like system.println numbers.contains, and then I'm going to see if it contains a 1. And again, not the index 1, but the value 1. And I can also go ahead and check if it contains a 7, just like so. We'll see that the contains returns a false for 1, and it returns a true for this one. Now again, the main purpose of an array list outside of utilizing the functions a part of it is that we can actually incrementally build up an array of any size. So we can see here, if I go ahead and I run my code, I can enter a string, and then I can say quit to stop. So I'm going to say John, Duchess, and Rose. And then if I type in quit, I entered John, Duchess, and Rose, and the way that it does it is by looking at the list that's right here, the new array list, and then using the .add method to add in the string that the user provides. Now you'll notice here that I'm able to use a for loop and go through each of the elements of the array, and instead of saying array.length, I use ArrayList.size. So the way, again, that you can get the size of an array list that you're working with is by using numbers.size. And that will return an integer that will give me the amount of elements in there, so tree. And if I use it a for loop, I'll go from 0 up to tree. Great. So now we want to go ahead and try to check out the, one more time what we could do here is try to check out what would happen if I only enter in one item. And we'll notice that regardless of how many items I put in here, and I'm actually going to put in a bunch of them, the array list doesn't matter. It doesn't mind how many items you put in because it is always adding up in size. So again, an array list is a very useful tool, and the reason that we use it is to compensate for the fact that that an array is very fixed to a size, and that the process of resizing an array in Java is a bit complicated. So an array list appears to help us with that issue. Again, please experiment with different types here. Please experiment with the items that are a part of the array list class by taking a look at the objects here, and you'll feel that after a while array lists are very similar to arrays in some regards, but also have some features that are very useful that arrays don't.